And I'm spotlighting you, sir. And there we go.
Got it. So
Got
I
it.
thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of your service this evening. As I explained to Stan a few minutes ago, I had a 4-hour funeral this afternoon, and we had over 125 police officers in attendance and closing the highways for it, which was an experience. David Kravitz, I am from Sharon, Massachusetts, and managed to spend 10 years living in Canada. And I'm currently the Hazzan at Temple Emanuel in Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey. So you can hold against me all those places, but I will always be a Red Sox fan. And my wife is telling me to sit up, so I need to sit up. So
David was giving you the big high five on that one.
Okay. We're going to daven Kabbalat Shabbat. Honestly, if you don't like the way I'm singing, you can all wave your hands or tell me what you want to do differently. I thought we would do a few of the, what we'll call the songs of Kabbalat Shabbat. Some of the melodies you'll recognize, and some of the melodies, hopefully, you won't recognize, and you'll hear something new. You'll hear Shlomo Carlebach. You'll hear a melody by a woman named Rabbi Deborah Sachs-Mintz, who is now the director of Tefillah and Singing at the Hadar Institute in New York City. You'll hear a tune by Joey Weisenberg, also at Hadar, and actually 2 tunes by Joey Weisenberg. And somehow today I managed to write a Devar Torah. With your permission, I'd like to deliver a Devar Torah. We'll say Kaddish to Rabbanan at the conclusion, and then afterwards we will sing Shalom Aleichem. The Siddur that I'm using is the blue Siddur Sim Shalom. Before COVID, in my synagogue, we introduced the new Lev Shalem, and then we went into lockdown, and we had about 1,000 copies of the Sim Shalom on hand. So we distributed them to members of our congregation so they could all join us on Friday night Zoom, and we haven't gone back to the new Siddur yet. So that's what you're used to. We're used to the Siddur Sim Shalom. Yedid Nefesh, page 14. I would love to tell you who the composer of this melody is, but all I can gather is that it is the traditional melody. Yedid Nefesh av harachaman meshoch avdach Eretzonach Yarutz avdach Kemo hayal Ishtachave Emul hadarach Yerav lo Yedidutach Minofetzuf Vechotam Adonai Ziv Haolam Nafshi Cholat Avatach Ana Ena Refana La Beharola No amazivach azetit chazek vetit rape vehaitalach shivchat olam vatik yehemuna rachamecha vechusna Avenu havach ki zekama nichsaf lerepetiferet uzach ana eli machmar libi Hoshana ve'al tit'alam. Higa aleina ufros chaviv alai et sukat shelomach ta'i eretz mikevodach nagila v'nismecha bach Maher ahuv kiva moed v'choneni kimei olam yalalalalala 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 Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. L'chun Ranana, the top of page 15, a melody written by Cantor Saul Zim. L'chun Ranana la donai nariya letzu ishenu. Ikadma fanav betoda izmiranani alo ki el gadol Adonai umelech gadol hakol Elohim asher beyado mekerei haaretz v'toafot harim lo lechuneranena l'Adonai Nariya letzu ishenu ikadma fanav betoda izmira nariya lo. We turn to page 16, Psalm 96, Shlomo Carlebach. Shir Adonai shir chadash Shir Adonai kol haaretz, Shir Adonai bachu shemo, Basru miyom leyom yeshuato, Sapru v'goyim kivodo, B'chol ha'amim niflaotav, Ki gadol Adonai, Umulal me'od, Narahu, Al kol Elohim, Aidai ki kol Elohim, Hamim elilim, Va'adonai shemayim asa, Ve'ada lefanav, Az v'tiferet b'mikdasho, Havul Adonai mishpachot amim, Havul Adonai kavod va'oz, Havul Adonai kevod shemo, S'u mincha, Uva'u lechatzrotav, Aida ishtachavu Adonai b'hadra kodesh, Chile mipanav kol haaretz, Imru v'goyim Adonai malach, Aftikon tevel ba'atzimot, Yadin amim b'mesharim, Yismechu hashamayim v'tagel haaretz, Yiramayam u'melo, Ya'alo sadai, B'chol ha'shebo, Aidai ziranenu, Kol hatzeyah, Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, Yishpot evel b'tzedek, Ve'amim be'emunato, Yalalalai, 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 Ya la 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 la, Ya la la la. We continue at the bottom of page 17, the bottom of Psalm 97. The words are Or Zarua Lat Tzadik, Uli Yishre Lev Simcha. Rejoice in Adonai, you who are righteous. Simchu Tzadikim Badonai. V'hodu Lezecher Kacho. Acclaim the holiness of God's name. It is part of our Shabbat. It is part of our Kabbalat Shabbat psalm. However, it's also sung 7 times before Kol Nidre on Yom Kippur evening. This is a melody composed by Joey Weisenberg. The melody was called Bina's Nigun, and it was the melody he wrote for his daughter Bina for her baby naming. We'll start with the melody. Ya na 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 na, ya na 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 na, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. O Zarua Lat Tzadik Ule Yishvelev Simcha. O Zarua Lat Tzadik Ulishvelev Simcha. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, ve'odu lezecher kodsho. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. And we turn to page 19. We're going to do something which most synagogues do. We're going to take a few quiet moments so we can recite the psalm to ourselves in the Hebrew or the English, and then we'll sing Romamu, the bottom of the page. The melody is to an old Sufi chant. Adon Amalach Yigzu Amim, Yeshev Kiruvim Tanut Haaretz, Adonai B'Tzion Gadol, V'Ramahu Al Kol Ha'amim. Moshe v'Aaron b'Kohana b'Shmuel b'Kor Avshemo Kor Imudin. Three lines from the bottom of the page. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Mishtachavu leHakodesho, Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Mishtachavu leHakodesho, Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Mishtachavu leHakodesho, Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Mishtachavu leHakodesho, Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Page 19, page 20. Psalm 29, the melody is referred to as the melody from Constantinople. Mizmor LeDavid, Havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, havu l'Adonai kevod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, kol Adonai amayim el hakavod yirim, Adonai al amayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, kol Adonai behada, kol Adonai shover adazim, vayishaber Adonai et arzei halevanon, vayakidem kemo egel Levanon v'Sion, kemo veneremim, kol Adonai chotzet lahavot esh, kol Adonai yachil midbar, yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, kol Adonai yecholel ayalot, vayechasov ye'arot, ובהיכלו כולו מכבוד, ובהיכלו כולו מכבוד. אדוני למה בו ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו Bashalom. We turn to page 21 for Lecha Dodi. Many congregations have the custom to sing the first page of Lecha Dodi in one melody, to then switch melodies in the middle. It makes it a little more interesting. It keeps people on their toes. We're going to sing the first 4 verses on page 21 to a melody called the Ramzor Nigun. The Ramzor was written by now Rabbi Deborah Sachs-Mintz. It was written by her a number of years ago when she and her family had spent the year in Israel. Her husband, also a rabbi, was on sabbatical. They were living in Gilo, in the southern section of the city, just close to Bethlehem. And every morning she would have to drop off one child at elementary school and the other child at Gan, the nursery school. And there's a very busy street between the two, and there's a long traffic light. And a traffic light in Hebrew is called a ramzor. And she created this nigun, and she was able to sing it from the start of the long traffic light to the end of the traffic light when she was able to make it to the Gan, and she called it the ramzor, the traffic light nigun. Goes like this. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la, yalla la 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 la. That's the whole thing. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, chadadi likrat kala, ay di di da 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 da, penei Shabbat nekabela, ay di di da 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 da, shamo v'zacho b'dibur echad, yishme'anu el hameyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, לשם ותפארת פלט, הילה לה לה לחדדי, לקראת קלה, איי די די דה דה די 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 דה דה די, פני שבת נקבלה, איי די די דה דה די 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 די, לקראת שבת לכו בנחה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם ניסוחה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לה לה לחדדי לקראת קלה, איי די די דה דה די 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 דה דה די, פני שבת נקבלה, איי די די דה דה די 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 די, מקדש מלך עם מלוכה, כמצאי מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייכם לך דדי לקראת כלה. איי די די דה דה די 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 דה דה די פני שבת נקבלה. איי די די דה דה די 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 מקדש מלך עם מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה. רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייכם לך דדי לקראת כלה. איי די די דה דה די 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 דה דה די פני שבת נקבלה. איי די די דה דה די 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 התנערים מיפה קומי, לבשי בגדי תפתח עמי, היד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קורבה אל נפשי גאה לך דדי לקראת כלה. איי די די דה דה די 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 דה דה די פני שבת נקבלה. איי די 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 איי די די. And we'll sing the last two verses to a melody called the Lincoln Nigun. Lincoln as in President Abraham Lincoln, composed by Joey Weisenberg of the Hadar Institute. I hope you enjoy it. Of course, now I'm blanking out on the melody. Alan? Wait a second. Give me a second. Yada na 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 na. Here we go. Yada la 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 la. Yada la la la. Yada yada la 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 la. Yada la 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 la. Yada la la la. Yada la 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 la. Yamin usmoti protsi. V'et Adonai tariksi. Al yarish ben patsi v'nismecha benagila. Yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la la, yalla la la la, yalla la 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 la. Lecha dodi lekrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi lekrat kala. Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi b'shalom ateret bala. Gam b'simcha ubetzohala. Tzach emunai am segula. Boi kala. Boi kala. Lecha dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודים לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. So if any of you know the music of Joey Weisenberg, you know that when I said to you, there's the melody, I was sort of right. Because the melody that I just sang is a melody composed by Joey Weisenberg. It's not the Lincoln Nigun. It's actually called the Kane Street Nigun, in honor of the Kane Street Synagogue in Brooklyn, New York. So I apologize, but rabbis have moments of blankness and cantors lose the melody. So I apologize for that. And the next time we'll do the Lincoln Nigun. Stan, I'm going to ask you a favor. I want you to give everybody the ability to unmute themselves. So just take a couple of minutes. And we're going to do this past 6 if you don't mind. In my synagogue, as we turn to the next page, if you look at the second line, it says, Tov lehodot l'Adonai u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon. Good to acclaim Adonai, to sing praise and exalt God. It's our custom to give people the opportunity at this point say one thing special that happened to them or to their family during the coming week. Now, not everybody has to speak. But if somebody has something special that they would like to share, now is the time to do so.
Dave, go ahead, Dave Kravitz.
Yeah, my one of my grandsons just got his master's today.
Mazel tov.
Very nice.
Very happy. And you know what's even better than that? His girlfriend is going to be a doctor. So how much better can that be?
That's the best thing in life.
Neil Schwartz.
Hi, Neil.
Shalom, y'all, from way down south, 10 miles from the Florida border in Alabama. The nachas that I would like to share is that last Friday I was at Fort Belvoir, right across the river from Washington, D.C., where a former congregant of mine is a honcho at the helicopter base. He had brought me up to Virginia to do the benediction at his change of command ceremony. And I ended it with a high holiday-ish chanted Shechianu, the likes of which had never been heard in the walls of that air base before. So I just wanted to share that nachas, and also the other nachas of the fact that Alan and I go way, way back, and Alan, thank you for being my teacher this time with this wonderful Kabbalat Shabbat.
Thank you. Tov l'hodot. Anybody else?
So I was in Washington, D.C. also. My daughter just graduated from George Washington, Master's in Public Health.
Mazel tov.
Mazel
Tov
tov.
l'Adonai.
Oh, all
Go
right.
ahead.
We just wanted to say hello, Alan. And nice to see you.
And too, it's a pleasure to see you guys. Okay,
Take care.
now we're going to sing Tov l'hodot l'Adonai, the top of page 23, a melody composed by Mark Biddleman, my predecessor here in Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey. If anybody else has something to share, please feel free to put it in the chat. Tov l'hodot l'Adonai, v'lezamer l'shemcha ehayon, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה 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 Ya la 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 la. With your permission, and if we have a couple of minutes, Stan, is it okay if I do give it to Var Torah? So, I want to be very clear that some of these words are my own. However, I gleaned liberally from a Devar Torah that came out this week from Rabbi Emily Lengowitz, who lives in Arizona. And she's a Reform rabbi, and she published a Devar Torah that really spoke to my heart. And she published it on a website called 10 Minutes of Torah, which is published by the Reform movement. So right now, what I'm going to say is mine, and then I'll tell you where her words begin. My wife and I moved into our home 7 years ago. And that was the fall of 2015. In the spring of 2016, my son, who is a farmer, helped me, and together we built in the backyard an enclosed garden consisting of 3 raised vegetable beds with plenty of deer fencing all around. And since then, I have faithfully planted, tended, and harvested from my garden each season. And each year I tell myself in the spring, Alan, don't overplant. You can't handle it. And each year I would not heed my own words. And unfortunately, this year is no exception. The 3 beds currently have 7 tomato plants, 3 types of tomatoes, 5 eggplant plants, 2 types of eggplant, red and yellow peppers, gherkin and Persian cucumbers, 5 different types of lettuce, baby bok choy, snap peas and sugar peas, and the following herbs: parsley, rosemary, thyme, sound familiar? Oregano, dill, basil, Kentucky spearmint, and Japanese peppermint. And now the words of Rabbi Emily. But of course, now that I know that I can do it, my experience of gardening has changed. I expect everything to be as it was. I expect perfection of myself. And I watch each leaf and bud with trepidation rather than wonder, peering 3 times a day at least at the flowering patterns of my tomato plants. I find myself asking, do my garden and I need to take a break? In another desert, in another time, our Israelite ancestors were similarly grappling with their own horticultural conundrums. In this week's Torah portion, Bahar, we learn of God's command that the Israelites must, every 7 years, called Shemitah. And every 7 sets of 7, there's an ultimate Shemitah called the Yovel, or Jubilee. And these years were meant as agricultural and societal resets. It says in the Torah, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land that I assign you, the land shall observe a Sabbath of the Eternal. 6 years you may sow your field, and 6 years you may prune your vineyard and gather in the yield. But in the 7th year, the land shall have a Shabbat of complete rest, a Shabbat of the Eternal. You shall not sow your field or prune your vineyard. It shall be a year of complete rest for the land." Well, there are many ways of interpreting this practice of allowing the land to lie fallow during Shemitah. We might consider it a divine reminder that we must allow ourselves to rest from the work of constantly needing to provide. We are reminded in the later verses when God promises that there will be enough to sustain the people, even during the 7th year, the Shemitah year, and beyond. Perhaps Shemitah serves to teach us to practice an abundance mindset rather than one of scarcity. Now back to me. I will return to my garden on Sunday, inspired by the Shemitah year, to come to my practice with new eyes. While I won't be letting my soil lie fallow this year, I'll use the metaphor of Shemitah to help me rest from the anticipation that past plantings have created. Rather than expect what I have already done or seen, I will honor the experience for what it can teach me now. And when, God willing, that first cherry tomato ripens, I'll try to reset myself, wipe clean what has been, and taste it as though it's the very first time. Shabbat shalom. With your permission, I think we should recite Kaddish to Rabbanan, and then we'll sing Shalom Aleichem. Kaddish to Rabbanan. Yitkadal
Kiddush, May Rabba.
Alma
Israel. Uzman Beriv Amen.
Yehi
Shlomo Rabba Lambolameh Amaya Yishtabach Yishtabach Yitramam Yitnaseh Yitalav Yitalav May the Kodesha Brifu Elam Minchal Ador Kishivata Tushbachata Venechamata Damiram Yalma V'Yamru
Amen.
Amen.
Yisrael, Yal Rabbanan,
Yal Talmidehum, Yal Talmidehum.
Haba, V'chista Amen.
Amen.
Shalom Rabba Mishmaya.
Rabba
Mishmayim. B'chaim tovim aleinu v'al
Yisrael
Yisrael.
v'yamru.
Amen. Say shalom b'mroma. Hu yaseh
Say
shalom aleinu v'al Yisrael.
Rachamov Yaseh Shalom. Aleinu Yal Yisrael v'yamru. Amen.
Shalom Aleichem, you'll find it, if you want the words in our Siddur, it's on page 13. So Stan, do I sing the Israel Gofar melody or something a little different?
It's up to you. I don't.
You're not helpful.
You're the boss. Come on.
So this is the melody that I learned at Kibbutz Yavne when I was in my gap year in 1978 and 1979. Back then, everybody in the on kibbutz came to dinner in the Chadar Ochel on Friday night, and we're probably 8 or 9 people, and there was a lot of noise everywhere. And the mayor of the kibbutz, at one point, to get everybody quiet right before Kiddush, would start to sing this melody for Shalom Aleichem. Now, their custom was to sing each verse 3 times. I'll do it twice for you, but it's a fun melody. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharem, Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamalachim, Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamalachim, Baruch Hu. Lachem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashem, Malachei Yomi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Boachem L'Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Yomi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ayabachuni Shalom Malchei Shalom Malachei Yomi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nil Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Yomi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ayatzei Chem Shalom Malchei Shalom Malachei Yomi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yedelatzeit Em L'Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Yomi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh I wish you all Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Alan. It was wonderful, wonderful. I want to thank you for being with us, and thank you for coming off a Refuah Shlema list. I got to tell you, that was a good thing to do. And for the rest of everybody who's here, please join us again next week. We do this every week. It's a lovely tradition we've started. And someone was texting with me. She didn't know many people in the chat. And I just mentioned to her, these are all friends you're going to learn you have. So please come back. It's a wonderful thing. And would love to see you all. Just a note about Kibbutz Yavne. They make great olive oil. And you can get their pickles and their olives and the rest of it. But the real trick is if you go to the kibbutz, they have the Lincoln Yeshiva there, which is another thing. But they have the only watch factory in Israel where they make watches. And if you're ever looking, I'm not wearing mine right now, but you can get the Israeli military watches there. They have all of them. They're very, very cool. If you're into watches, it's a great place to go, and the prices aren't bad. The first time we went down there, it took like forever to get there. Now at the highways, you get off the highway, you're there in like 10 minutes from Tel Aviv. It's amazing. It's just so cool. thank you very much for being with us. Thanks, everybody. Mazel tov to everybody. Had good stuff happening. And we hope to see you all next week and have a great Victoria Day holiday. And next weekend, have a great Memorial Day.
Amen.
So, have a good
Shabbos.
have a good
Shabbat
Shabbos.
shalom,
everybody.
Everybody.
Shalom.
Yeah. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom. Bye, guys
again.
and ladies.
Thanks for being with us, Donna.
Okay.
You're muted.
Let's see if he responds.
There we go. Well, thanks a lot, everyone. We'll see you all soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yum da 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 yum da 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 dum da da